Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside and welcome to a typical day here in North Carolina in July. It is hot and humid. So today what we're going to do is a little bit of a garden tour, but it's going to be a little bit of a different spin. We're going to be focusing on plants that are thriving and handling the heat and humidity like champions. So if you are like me and you live in a hot and humid area of the country, then hopefully this video will give you ideas on plants that you can add to your garden. Maybe you don't add them right now. Put this down, jot some notes, make a folder on your phone. That's what I do. Make a folder, put these plant names down so that way when it's the best time in the year to plant for you, you can add them to your garden. We're going to do these by different kinds of categories. So we're going to focus on one type of plant, see that different type of plant throughout the gardens, and just go through kind of category by category by category. First, what we're going to do is look at panicle hydrangeas. I am a huge fan of panicle hydrangeas. I live basically in full sun. We literally built our house in the middle of a field 20 years ago. I have tons of sun. So panicles work the absolute best for me because they are sun loving, need at least 6 hours of sun or more, and they bloom on new growth every year. That means I am guaranteed to have flowers every single year. Here we are in the backyard, right along the pathway to the patio, right beside our fountain, and I have two examples of panicle hydrangeas here. We have a little lime punch. We have a little lime punch here and a little lime punch right here. And then here in the middle is pufferfish. So both of these are going to be in that 3 to 5 foot range. I adore little lime punch. It probably, if you press me hard, it would be my favorite panicle hydrangea, probably my favorite hydrangea of all time, because look how tight this plant is. Look how strong and sturdy. We had rain off and on all day yesterday. And look at these blooms. They are just absolutely glorious, standing up, and are not floppy at all. If you're in a warm zone like me, you will see the tag of little lime punch and you're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be gorgeous color. Sorry y'all, that color on the proven winners tag is if you live in cooler zones like maybe Michigan. But here in the South, little lime punch handles the heat and humidity like a champion. These get full sun, sun up to sun down, and they are beautiful. Now they are later, right? So you can see that they are just really starting to fully kind of open up here on the tips. They're still nice and tight. And so for me, it's the end of June, beginning of July, where my little lime punches become really start to flush out in all of their beautiful glory. Next, we have a pufferfish. We have one pufferfish here. It is, I just added this, I believe it was last year that I added it. And you can see that it has a completely different type of flower on it than the punch. It is more open, it is more airy. And so it allows the rainwater to go through it really nice. And there are just pollinators all over these guys. Little tiny pollinators of all different shapes and sizes that are on this plant. Now, this is a beautiful pufferfish. She is growing quite nicely, but let me show you what pufferfish looks like in all of her glory. One of my earliest blooming panicle hydrangeas here, really in our gardens, but especially here in the back, is Little Quickfire. And this is a Little Quickfire. She doesn't look so little, but trust me, that is what this is. I love the little Quickfire because, one, can you see how different the flowers are compared to, say, little lime punch? Very open, very much more like a lace cap panicle hydrangea. The pollinators love this plant, and it has a very nice light fragrance to it. It starts out creamy white. Now you can see that we are actually getting some lovely rose mauve colored tint to the blooms, which is quite lovely. So if you're looking to attract pollinators to the garden, if you are looking for a fragrant hydrangea, then both the Quickfire, which is the big boy, right? And then Little Quickfire both do the same thing. Nice big open blooms, And like I was talking about with pufferfish, because it has those more like lace cap blooms on it, even though you get tons of rain, it does not pull your blooms down. So you get nice upright flowers, and so little quickfire might be a great option for you. One of the newest panicle hydrangeas from Proven Winners is Tiny Quickfire. So there's all sorts of quickfires in that family. Tiny Quickfire gets its name because guess what? Yup, that's right. She's a teeny little thing. Basically about in that, well, I think it's like 2 feet by 2 feet. And y'all, again, nice, open, kind of more of a lace cap panicle bloom on it. The water just flows right through it when it rains. You can see it is getting that nice pink mauve color to it as well. And yes, I do. I have it mixed in here with, you see ferns behind it, you see hydrangeas behind it, you see hostas behind it, and astilbe and double impatiens. This area gets morning sun and then it gets a break in the afternoon. So you can have those panicle hydrangeas in that sun to part sun, right? You just kind of have to gauge it. Clearly she's giving me beautiful blooms, but yet is still working in predominantly with shade perennials, because it's a combination of the hydrangeas getting enough sun, but yet the perennials rather are getting enough shade later on in the day. Another great panicle hydrangea is Limelight Prime. Limelight Prime is going to be kind of that middle size, right? So you have Limelight, that is the big daddy. Then you have Limelight Prime, I say that's kind of like the teenager, and then you have your little Lime Punch that is a little bit smaller. Now, let's talk about this, right? The quickfires have more of that lace cap bloom. Look at your Limelight Prime, right? And that Limelight, very tight flowers on them, right? The buds are very close together, which makes a beautiful flower, but that could be a little bit of a problem because see all that water that's coming off of it? They're holding the water. And you can see a little bit that after all of that rain yesterday, they're being a little floppy. So just full disclosure, just know that when you have those big, tight heads on them, that sometimes can mean that they get floppy when they are saturated with water. Now, you'll notice on the same plant, we have some that are bending down, and then there you go. Look at those guys, nice and tight and upright. I don't know why one's doing one and one's doing the other, but there you go. You've got another Limelight Prime back here that is nice and tall and doing it just as well. So, give you another example of those panicle hydrangeas that are handling the heat and humidity like champions. More examples of panicle hydrangeas. I told y'all, I have a bunch in my landscape. Here we have firelights, and I have a whole row of the firelight hydrangeas here, very aptly named Hydrangea Hill. These have been in the ground for, oh gosh, 5 years or so, and firelights will get nice and big. They are a nice little bit of a compromise between that, like a lace cap bloom and then a fuller bloom. So you can see they're not as tight as far as the buds with that Limelight Prime we just saw, but they're not quite as open as the Quickfire family. So you just kind of go between, you find out which hydrangea works for you. There are pollinators all over these guys, and I love them. They will turn a slight pink rose color for me, not that intense red that you get when you have cooler nighttime temperatures, but they still do really well. And then to give you yet another, I want you to look at that color comparison. So we have firelights right here and little limes right here. So this is the traditional little lime. I think you can really see why these are called little limes. When they come out, their blooms come out, they are very much a lime color. And I think this is the best way to look and see just truly how limey they are when you look at those firelights behind them. But again, these are nice, mature plants. This one has been here the same length of time that the firelights have been. And again, we have kind of a hedge that goes down here at the base of that crepe myrtle. So your little limes are going to be in that 3 to 5 foot range, where your firelights are going to be more in that 6 to 8 foot range. Several years ago, we put in this hedge of phantom hydrangeas. Phantoms are another panicle hydrangea, you guessed it, that get nice and big. A lot of times you will hear a comparison of a phantom hydrangea next to a limelight hydrangea. Phantoms are what we call a non-branded plant, meaning that it doesn't belong, the patent doesn't belong to one specific plant company. And so maybe you'll be able to find phantoms a little bit more readily available, perhaps. But yeah, phantoms will get about the same size as your limelights. The main difference that I noticed in the phantoms versus the limelights is, again, looking at how dense are the flowers. Limelights will be nice and tight and dense, whereas this phantom, as you can see, it is much more open and a little bit not nearly as open as that quickfire. Still has that nice big presence, but the pollinators love that open habit of that more lace cap panicle hydrangea than the really true dense ones. And that's simply because they just can get in there, right? They can access all the good nectar in there. So people ask too about, they want, updates on the phantoms. So this is a massive, berm bed, whatever you want to call it, of the phantoms. We actually were growing these at the nursery years ago and just weren't selling them. And so we said, well, we're not going to toss them, right? Let's add them to the landscape. So there's probably 20 of them in here, and they get nice and big. So if you see a phantom and you want something nice and big, go ahead and grab that phantom hydrangea. We talked about it before, but I want to show you in person. This is a limelight. Now, this limelight is probably about 14, 15 years old. I bought it as a 3-gallon, plopped it down in here. It is very much in the natural area. You can tell this is the natural area along the creek, and you will see that I have, quote, started to make it into, not really, but more of a tree form. And I honestly did this, y'all, out of necessity / laziness, because we don't maintain this very well. We have weeds that grow up in here all the time. So over the years, I have limbed up this limelight hydrangea so that it's more of a tree, so that I can easily get in here, or Jackson or Jerry or whoever, with a weed eater and just whack back the weeds, and it doesn't overtake my hydrangea. Now, limelights, again, are, I think, in my opinion, the industry standard for a panicle hydrangea. This thing is massive. It is huge. I am 5'2". I am standing here. It is every bit of, I would say, 10 feet tall, right? So it is huge. Right now it is in the shade, but it will become in the sun. And so there you go. Gorgeous example of a panicle hydrangea, limelight tree form, out of necessity. Yes, love those limelights. Here we have the pufferfish that is at the berm. This baby loves life. This is a great example of a pufferfish. This is only going into its 2nd year, so this is not even close to being at her full potential, but look how massive these flowers are, right? So you've got one huge massive bloom on it. Hence the name pufferfish, because they literally are so huge and puffy. They're a little bit more open. They can handle more rain. Now, yes, if you look at this, there are some that are down further on the bottom that are a little droopy because they're full of water. But as a whole, they are nice and upright. At the end of the kind of bloom cycle, you will notice that pufferfish will put on a little tuft right here. So you have the big, huge panicle bloom, and then you'll have this little tiny little tuft right there. So lots of fun for your panicle hydrangeas and pufferfish. Next on the category of a heat-loving plants, heat and humidity, because there is a difference between dry heat and humid heat, and let me tell you, are the summerific hibiscus. Back here in the backyard, I have got 2 of the, what we call the crushes, right? So this is lilac crush. Now there are 3 of them in here. Probably overplanted. I underestimated the power of this plant. So there are 3, but it definitely gives me a big, beautiful screen to the patio, both looking into the patio and when I'm on the patio, looking out. Lilac crush and all the crushes are going to be more columnar. They're going to be more upright. Now it is kind of hard to see because there are 3 of them in here, but lilac gets its name because, of course, it is this gorgeous, beautiful lilac colored bloom on it, nice and big. I mean, you can see my hand, and this is every bit of like 8 inches wide. Beautiful, right? Love the lilac crush. I've noticed that it'll kind of change colors. It will have a little pink hue to it. It'll actually have a little purple hue to it. So it is a little bit of a kaleidoscope and changes colors. Your summerifics love water, and so the more water you give them, the happier and the bigger they will be. I think that is part of the key to success of these 3 right here, is because they are on drip irrigation, and my gosh, they absolutely just are so happy. Your summerifics are going to have a brand new flower every single day. So just like a daylily, right? So these have opened up. This is an older bloom. If it bothers you, it'll just pull off. Now, you don't have to pull them off. They will naturally deadhead themselves, but that is just a little tip for you with your summerifics. So that is Lilac Crush. Then we have Valentine's Crush. Well, guess what color Valentine's Crush is? Yep, it is a beautiful, deep, deep red. Now, this is one plant, so that way you can see, I think, a little bit better how columnar this is, how very upright. It is taller than it is wide. Nice green foliage, and then of course just that brilliant red flower on it. The pollinators love your hibiscus. So you will have bumblebees, you'll have honeybees, you'll have all sorts of little guys in here just having the best time on your hibiscus. They do love the water tremendously. The more water you give them, the more sun you give them, the happier they're going to be and the bigger they are going to be. One of my favorite summerifics is Edge of Night, because Edge of Night has really dark foliage, right? Near black foliage, and then you get this almost neon pink flower on it. Now, these are small summerifics. They have been struggling here on Hydrangea Hill. I think they just are not getting enough water, hence why they are so small. But I wanted you to see the color on this plant. Now, where your crushes are more columnar, this is what we call gumdrop, meaning they're going to be wider than they are tall. But you just look at that flower and it is stunning. It is absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous summerific hibiscus. A new perennial hibiscus from our friends at Walters Gardens is Watermelon Ruffles. Watermelon Ruffles has been planted in this garden within the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and she has just started to bloom. And I adore this hibiscus because this is going to be 4.5 feet tall, 4.5 feet wide. So it's going to be a little bit of a bigger one, right? Dark green with a little bit of some darker foliage in it, but nearly just green foliage. And then that beautiful watermelon colored bloom on it. Currently, she only has one, right? So she's young, she only has one, but look at all of those buds. Tons of buds on it. So she is going to be really happy here in just a little bit. Now, this one is on irrigation because we have our holly trees are on irrigation, and the irrigation line actually runs straight at the base of Watermelon Ruffles. So I made sure that she was on there. So she has literally doubled in size within the last 2 weeks. Last year, I planted Starry Night from, again, our friends at Walters Gardens. And this is another one that's a little bit, she's not quite all the way black. She has very close to being near black leaves on it. And then the flowers are very much predominantly a white with that pink veining, right? So it has a really hot pink eye to it. I don't know if you can see, but there is a little bumblebee who is taking a nap right inside. It is all snugged up right there inside, and so he's taking a little nap. But Starry Night is just, again, beautiful color on it. And you can see that we've got all sorts of little guys coming to be pollinators on this. Now, with your summerific hibiscus and or your, in general, a perennial hibiscus, a lot of you are asking, how do you treat, excuse me little guys, how do you treat this guy, right? That pesky Japanese beetles. Because I have found that, especially in In our climate, I have 2 pests that will go onto my perennial hibiscus. Early on, it is the sawfly larva. It is a tiny little caterpillar on the back side of the leaf, and they will just eat holes in your leaf, right? So that's the first one. They're really hard to find because they are so tiny. You will see the damage before you see the caterpillar. And then of course, next we go to the Japanese beetles. Japanese beetles do love your perennial hibiscus. The best thing that I have found for them is to treat the Japanese beetles is the Fertilome Tree and Shrub Drench. So that tree and shrub drench will last for 12 months. You mix it up. All the directions are on the container. Depending on how big the plant is how much you mix it. You mix it with a gallon of water and you pour it around the base of the plant. And then the plant soaks it up, and anything that chews on the plant, it takes care of. So that would be aphids, any kind of like that sawfly larva, caterpillar, the Japanese beetles, it will take care of that. So if you have Japanese beetles and you're looking to try to get rid of them or protect your plants from it, that is what I use. One of relatively newest summerifics out there on the market is the Summerific Holy Grail. And I'll say like in the last 3 or 4 years, Holy Grail is in that gumdrop family, right? So you can tell it is wider than it is tall, different than Valentine's Crush because you have such dark foliage, right? So really dark foliage and more deeper, intense red to it. And those of you that say, oh my gosh, your hibiscus, they look so good, nothing's eating on them. They're beautiful. Yes, you do have beautiful flowers. And then you look, oh my gosh, there's some damage. And then as we come up, oh my, somebody is having their way with my hibiscus. I guarantee you it is a Japanese beetle. But y'all, that's okay, right? We just go with it. We do what we can. From afar, it is gorgeous. And so if you are looking to add, especially like even from the porch with this dark foliage and those bright red flowers on it, it makes a big impact from a distance. So if you love those nice dark colors, Holy Grail is going to be the one for you. All right, my friends, if I needed to prove the point that it was too hot, the GoPro quit working because the camera was overheating. They said it was too hot and it needed to cool down. So we are switching it to the iPhone. Here we have a Summerific Evening Rose. There are 3 of them here in front of the greenhouse at the garden center. Again, I know I say this all the time, love it because of those beautiful electric pink flowers on it. Evening Rose is a beautiful one. Still has the nice dark foliage somewhere that's not completely green, but yet it's not completely black either. And then you have got just stunning flowers on it, right? Make a big splash from a distance. What else thrives in the heat and the humidity? Supertunias. That's right, my friends. Supertunias love the heat and humidity. And so here behind me, we have the Supertunia Vista Snowdrift, a big, beautiful, pure white flower that will just produce flowers nonstop through the heat and humidity. Huge key to success for your Supertunias in the landscape, especially in the south with the heat and humidity, is get them in the ground as soon as you possibly can. These were planted at the end of March. Yes, we still had a couple of frosts after that. They can handle it. Your Supertunias can handle those light frosts, even into those low 30s. Not a problem at all. The key is get them in the ground, get those roots established before the heat hits, my friend. That is what you want. So we have a Supertunia Vista Snowdrift right here, a beautiful big example of gorgeous display mass planting of that white Supertunia. You were with me just the other week when I pruned back the saffron finches. Yep, Supertunia saffron finch baked in the sun right here. It is on the patio. It is definitely exposed to tons of heat, clearly lots of humidity as we are in July in North Carolina, but they continue to produce those gorgeous soft yellow flowers in mass. So if you want a nice yellow instead of a white, maybe you go with the Supertunia saffron finch. Supertunias come in all sizes and colors. Here at the base of the flower bed behind the garden shed, we have Supertunia Mini Vista Hot Pink. Again, Mini vistas, supertunias in general, vistas do great in mass planting, and these are no exception. They are just thriving, truly sun up to sundown. This is one of the hottest parts of the garden, and these mini vista hot pinks are just absolutely thriving. As are, we had some more of the vista snowdrifts, so they are back here as well, because I think you can see, so we've got mini vista hot pink, Vista Snowdrift, and then Vista Snowdrift there again. So they just make this lovely, beautiful carpet, but you can see the mini vistas are going to be shorter, right? So they're not going to be as tall. Yes, they spread, but they're not going to be as tall as like your vistas. Your vistas can get nice and both tall and wide. We can't talk about adding supertunias to your garden without talking about the annual of the year, Supertunia Vista Jazzberry. Obviously, this is planted in huge mass here at our signature garden. This is a double row, just a beautiful, really electric raspberry colored flower on it. That makes quite the statement, obviously, when you plant it in mass. Now, do you have to have a massive planting like this to enjoy Supertunia Vista Jazzberry? Absolutely not, but it does make quite the statement here at the signature garden because we have both of the entrance ways are planted in jazzberry, and my gosh, y'all, they are loving life. So add that Supertunia Vista Jazzberry to your shopping list for next year. Last but certainly not least, with our supertunias that we're going to really look at today, is the new Supertunia Hoopla Vivid Orchid. Y'all, this thing is a beautiful beast here at the base of the fountain. Such a fun bicolor supertunia. It looks like jazzberry in the center, right? Has that really electric purple color, but then a lovely, big, huge, wide white band all the way around it. Planted in mass, there you go. It makes a huge statement here at the garden. Now, do not be afraid to cut your supertunias back. In fact, I need to come do that to jazzberry. How do I know? Well, there is a low wall surrounding the fountain. You can see it just right there, and I need to come in and give these guys a bit of a haircut. That way, when Chandler, who cuts our grass for us, can easily get here, maintain it, and it keeps it nice and thick. Another great annual that loves the heat and humidity, without a doubt, is Angelonia. Angelonia is very heat tolerant, loves the humidity, and just thrives. Right off the patio, we have a mass planting of the Angel Face Perfectly Pink. These two beds were planted at two different times. This first small bed was planted first, so these plants are a little bit older. Now you can see that with some of the wind, you have some where it pushed some of them down. As all annuals, you can absolutely come in here and prune them. And you know what? I more than likely will, because they're getting a little tall. Let me show you, for example. So you can see, like right here, see how long this is? If I were to cut it back right here, I've got new shoots right here that will get nice and thick and full. So before you go on vacation, you know, after you have the party, after you have all those fun things, go ahead and prune them back. Have the other mass planting right here, and they are doing really, really well. They are just thriving and can handle the heat, handle the humidity. I do not have any burn on them. This bed is lightly on irrigation, meaning like there's one tube that runs through that whole entire bed. And then these guys right here, there is zero irrigation. So none of these Angelonias are on irrigation. Now, I do have the new Angel Face White in the two urns right here. And this is a great example of they are heat tolerant, they handle the humidity great, but that doesn't mean that they are necessarily drought tolerant. So heat tolerant does not equal drought tolerant. Sometimes it does, but not always, okay? Because these are in containers and there is drip irrigation on these guys, but we have had such excessive heat really for this early in the season. We're experiencing August temperatures, not into June, July temperatures, but we've been in the upper 90s with heat indexes 107, 108, and these guys just could not handle could not get enough water. However, we got some great rain, and so these went through a little period of being dry. They have bounced back, but you can see that I have sacrificed some of the blooms on that. Perfect time to come in, trim them up, right? Just cut them back a little bit. This guy's kind of floppy right here, so just trim this part off and you've got new growth all right here. Your plants will bounce back. So we have the angel face white. Now when we come around here, and that angel face white is going to be as a new 2025 introduction. So you will see that next year. Another new Angelonia that is coming out from Proven Winners is the angel face Wedgwood pink. Now this is another example of maybe it's time for me to go ahead and give them a little trim, because they're getting a little wild and they're not flowering quite as much. Now I've got all sorts of new growth right here, but look at this beautiful color. So the Wedgwood pink is a bicolor. If you're familiar with Wedgwood blue, basically it's the same thing except it's pink instead of blue, right? And so gorgeous, very nice soft color, but I have them planted throughout here between my Incrediballs and my double play doozies, and they are just handling, again, heat and humidity like champions. Not specifically on irrigation. There is drip in that bed, but it's more for the Incrediballs. Some water does trickle down, but just to give you a tip on that. I introduced you to Angelona Wedgwood pink, and I talked about Wedgwood blue. Well, here we have Wedgwood blue. Again, it is planted in mass here at the Signature Garden. A beautiful bicolor. Maybe it's more of a purple than it truly is a blue. Purple and white flower, loves the heat, loves the humidity as it goes down here between the boxwoods and the little lime punches. So that Wedgwood blue is another great Angelonia to add to your garden. Brenna and I happily came up here on the porch to escape into the shade to tell you caladiums. Caladiums are a magnificent plant for the heat and the humidity. If I only had to pick one plant where you said, Jenny, pick me one plant that can handle heat and humidity like a champion, without a doubt, it would be caladiums. Caladiums thrive in this kind of weather. Where I may melt and Brenna may melt, not the caladiums. You were with me when I planted up this container here on the back porch. There are two, they were 8-inch containers, right? And look at them. I mean, y'all, these things have absolutely filled in and are doing lovely, absolutely beautiful. Begonias would be another one that I would say. This is the Double Delight Apple Blossom, handle like a champion. This is going to be more shade, right? Just because of this area, it is more shade. Caladiums absolutely can do sun, especially those heart-to-heart caladiums from Proven Winners. Just read your tag, people, right? Just read the tag, make sure that it is a sun caladium, because there are certain ones that are only shade. But this one is beautiful. This is Blushing Bride, and she is lovely in this raised container. I got this container because I know somebody's going to ask. This is from Kinsman. It's like the cradle container, so it's gorgeous. Caladiums, perfect for heat and humidity. They actually stop growing when it goes below 50 degrees. So if you are in a cooler area, or maybe you're hot during the day, you're in a hot, dry area, like I'm thinking like high desert, right? So you have really hot temperatures during the day, but at night you really cool down. Maybe you go below 50. Caladiums may not go as well for you in your garden as they do for me. If you're familiar with the South, then you understand. If you're not from the South, then you probably may not understand fully. So yes, it is very hot and it is humid during the day, right? So we have humidity could be, you know, in the 80%, 90%, whatever, even 70%, 70, 80, 90%. Our dew point really hangs out around that 70 degree. So the lower the dew point, the drier the air and the more comfortable it feels, even though it may be warm. Caladiums thrive in the South because our nighttime temperatures don't cool off. It is, I mean, like our lows can be, like you wake up in the morning and the low of your day is 70 something, right? So that's 20 degrees above when they actually like they stop growing. So they will go and go and go until the fall, until we get really consistently cool temperatures at night. So if you're in the heat and the humidity and you're not growing caladiums, honey, you're missing out. So low maintenance, gorgeous color, and they literally will grow before your very eyes. Not only do caladiums work in containers and hanging baskets and window boxes, they also thrive in the landscape. Look at these beauties, right? So this is right beside the rose arch in the forest pansy bed. I have a couple of these sweet things in here, and they are absolutely just thriving. So use those caladiums in the landscape, in your containers, in your hanging baskets, and they will just grow before your very eyes. I'm telling you, y'all, I know, I'm just as one friend to another. If you're not growing caladiums and you're in the heat and the humidity, you're missing out. More plants that absolutely thrive in the heat and humidity are grasses, whether it is an annual grass like this vertigo. There's actually 3 in here. The third one is hanging out behind the Suncredible sunflowers, but man gosh, if it doesn't matter if it's an annual or a perennial, they love heat and humidity. Vertigo is an annual, so it is the largest purple fountain grass. This is one plant, y'all. So there's one plant right there, and then there's one plant over there to the right. The more water you give it, the bigger they're going to be. So this is a great example of a nice, full-size annual grass that loves the heat and the humidity. I don't know if the camera's picking up on it, but my gosh, y'all, I am glistening like crazy. Also have my Texas hat on. Sweet guest of ours from the Signature Experience came. So my Texans, I got you, baby. So I know that you know the heat and humidity. So I stepped into the shade just for a second. Some people have said, you know, on camera, they're like, my gosh, you can't even tell you're sweaty. Y'all, if you only knew. The camera is hiding some things, I guess, but let me tell you, the glistening beads are popping out like crazy. I am standing here for a reason though. Okay, grasses, perennial grasses. I think probably my favorite perennial grass would be Niagara Falls. So Niagara Falls, again, relatively new on the market. It is a beautiful columnar. It is what we call a bluegrass, right? So it has those nice wide blades on it. Basically, it's gonna be like a 4x4. So I have 3 on this side of the fence, and then I have, I think it's 2 on the other. So they look like a group of 5. But these really do well, consistently come back in our winters. We don't have to worry about losing them in the wintertime. You can see that they're getting ready to put on their plumes, right? So they are gonna have those really nice, light, airy plumes to it. But nice big thick blade of grass on it. Nice blue hue to it. Love, love, love Niagara Falls perennial grass. Cheyenne sky grass is another great perennial grass that does really well for us. There's actually 5 of them in here, but Evening Rose decided to eat 2 of them, so we have these 3 that are doing great. The other 2 I can move out, but I just wanted to show you these Cheyenne sky. They're going to be much shorter, right? They're going to basically be in that 3-foot range, have a nice, predominantly green hue to them, but they will turn a lovely kind of a reddish color, and they will do plumes. So Cheyenne sky is another great perennial grass if you are looking to add perennial grasses to your hot and humid garden. Here in the South, man, we do love our butterfly bushes. Where we live, they are not invasive, so we happily plant buddleias, butterfly bushes all over the place to attract those pollinators, bring in some gorgeous color. Here we have, this is Pink Cascade 2. So Pink Cascade 2 is a nice, big, huge buddleia that has massive blooms on it, a nice, soft baby doll pink to it, and it has that cascading habit. So it's naturally going to kind of have that arch on it because it is called the Pink Cascade 2. So you've got that look to it. It is huge. Like the blooms on this, like here's my hand, right? Let's see. Look how big that bloom is. Nice and big. You've got bumblebees. The butterflies have not discovered this one yet, at least this morning. And so, yeah, so if you're looking to add some color to attract your butterflies, your pollinators, don't forget about your buddleias. Perhaps my favorite Pugster buddleia is the Pugster pinker. So here we have a nice big planting of Pugster pinker. I have got a lovely butterfly on this one, actually a couple of them. And so we're gonna try not to scare them off. We have some nice big ones, and then we have some little ones. But whether you want a big presence and you want to go with that like a pink cascade, right? Or you want something smaller, then that you have the pugsters, right? But butterfly bushes, the buddleias, they need full sun. Lots and lots of sun. They don't like to be fussed over. They tend to be more drought tolerant. They clearly can handle the heat and humidity. Once they start blooming, they do not stop. They will just continue to bloom all the way through fall. As you can see, they are pulling in all sorts of pollinators, whether it is your butterflies or your bumblebees, your honeybees. They are bringing them in. I like pinker because it is a nice, rich pink color. You don't have to plant them in mass. You absolutely can plant one and just go for it. That's the beautiful thing about all of these plants. You can use them in groups, or you can use them as specimen plants. So you only have room to put one perennial grass, go for it. You only have room to put one limelight hydrangea, go for it. Only one spot for a summerific hibiscus, not a problem, right? So it's not about number. This is about finding a plant that will be added to your garden that you will love and enjoy. Okay, my friends, so we are going to wrap it up today. This kind of shows you a little how much Jenny's glistening right now. But if you live in those areas that are hot and humid, even though we may be melting as gardeners in the garden, there are certain plants that absolutely thrive in the heat and the humidity. So don't be afraid to add those to your garden. Typically, the plants that thrive in the heat and humidity are not super showy in the spring, right? Because it's not hot and humid in the spring. It's more cool. So this is why videos like this are great, because you can see when it is hot and humid, you can take notes and say, oh, I want to add a little lime punch, or I want Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, or I want to do the Wedgwood Pink Angelonia, right? And you can add that to your garden in the springtime when maybe they're not quite as big, but knowing that come this summer, or the summer that you plant them, that they are going to be massive and absolutely thriving in the heat and the humidity. So hopefully you have gotten some good information. You have gotten one or two plants that you want to add to your garden. And if you don't live in a hot and humid area, these are still great plants, right? These are still amazing plants. Your panicles, they're going to even be better for you because you're going to get gorgeous color in the fall where we don't necessarily get that color. But living in an area where the humidity is just absolutely oppressive, where you just walk out and you immediately start sweating, we don't get a relief during the day, but the plants don't get a relief at night. So that's why in the south, in those hot and humid areas, it is a bit of a challenge sometimes to garden. So again, I hope you have found this helpful. I found one or two plants that you want to add to your garden. Thanks for hanging in there with me as we switched cameras and went a little old school and just grabbed the phone, and we're just going for it, people. We're making it happen. As always, we appreciate you. Stay hydrated. I'm gonna go jump in the creek or something. I don't know. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.